Today, I've got a chance to interview a senior developer that I know very well. He's had an interesting career path and worked on some really neat projects. So let's head over and start the Fireside Q&A with Chris from Senior Code Review Buddy. That's me. I wanted to start interviewing some other senior developers I know to share some advice with you from other folks. And as my first step in the process, I figured I needed to come up with some interview questions. But since I'd not done that before, I wasn't too sure how to tell if the questions were any good or not. So I figured, why not interview myself first? That would let me test these questions in a low-stress, low-stakes interview. So without any more delay, let's start the interview. Hello, Chris, and welcome to Senior Code Review Buddy. I'm really excited to have you here today. Well, thanks for inviting me for this, Chris. I'm looking forward to this, but I am a bit nervous. I'm hoping people will find my answers helpful, or at least interesting. I'm sure they will. To start, would you mind giving us a brief introduction of yourself? Sure. So my name is Chris, and I've been coding for about 20 years now. I started by joining a programming club in high school, fell in love with coding then, and have been coding since. I went to the University of Waterloo for computer science and was in the co-op program there. I had some great experiences in that program. I spent a few co-ops working at BioWare Edmonton, and I actually got to work on the Mass Effect franchise. I'm in the credits for Mass Effect 2 and 3, which is something I'm really proud of. After that, I had an internship at YouTube, which I managed to then turn into a full-time job working at the Chrome browser at Google. I was there for almost a decade before I spent some time working at a machine learning research institute at a major Canadian bank, RBC, and my most recent work experience was at an educational tech startup. Currently, I've been on a bit of a break, and I'm spending some time working on Senior Code Review Buddy, which I think you're familiar with. Oh yes, I think I've seen a video or two from Senior Code Review Buddy on YouTube. That's an interesting series of places you've been. When you first started coding, what language did you learn first? My first language was Pascal, using the Turbo Pascal IDE. The main reason was that's what people at the high school had been using for the programming contests, so that's what I was taught. In my later years of high school, I did learn C++, and I started using that in some programming competitions. Did you do a lot of programming contests? In high school? Yep. I probably competed in a contest at least once a month on average, and I spent a lot of time doing practice problems. I think the practice problems really helped me get a basic programming foundation. Although when I got to university, I mostly stopped doing programming competitions. I just found myself too busy with other things. Interesting. Do you think programming contests are something that really helped you become a senior developer? Or is there something else that you would say had a bigger impact? I don't think I'd rank programming contests too high. They did help me with coding, but I think that's just a small part of being a senior developer. What I think had a bigger impact on me was my second manager when I was working at Google. My first manager had a lot of responsibility and reports, so I wasn't able to spend a lot of time with him. My second manager, though, was not just a manager of fewer people, but he was also the tech lead of the project I was on at the time, so I had a lot more interactions with him. And I noticed that after he became my manager, my trajectory seemed to skyrocket. I strongly believe it was because since he had more interactions with me and knew in more detail what I was doing and what was kind of on my plate, he knew where to push and nudge me to help me grow. I think it was within about 3 years of having him as my manager that I'd been promoted twice and had reached the rank of senior developer at Google. Now, there's a lot of other hard work that I did as well, but I think the feedback and encouragement I was able to get from him was super important. So I guess my advice here would be try and find someone senior to you that can give you that feedback, that can sort of know what you're doing and know where to give you nudges and pushes to help you grow. Yeah, that sounds like it would be very valuable, but maybe hard to get? Without a doubt, but I think it's worth it. Somewhat related to this, is there a skill you wished you'd learned sooner? I'm not sure it's a skill per se, but I wish that I'd spent more time in improving my communication skills earlier. Most projects involve a lot of people now, and communication and alignment are super important. Specifically, I'd focus on how to better talk with people when there are disagreements or misalignments. I recently made a video about that subject, and while it maybe hasn't gotten as many views, it's honestly one of my favorite videos I've made. And I think the content can apply to basically everyone, not just developers. Would you mind putting a link to the video in the description below? It's called How Crucial Conversations Can Make You a Better Developer. Absolutely. I also enjoyed that video. Now, what's a common mistake you see developers make? I don't know if I see others do it a lot, but it's something that I was often guilty of. I'd get near the end of a PR and I'd see something that wasn't right and should be fixed. It wouldn't be an error, just an area for improvement. But since I was usually tired of the PR by then, I'd kind of just say, it's not that important. And then, seemingly without fail, my reviewer would almost always leave a comment suggesting that I fixed that thing. So I've slowly learned that when I see something that rubs me the wrong way in a PR I'm ready to upload, I really should take a bit of time and fix it, because otherwise I'm just making more work for everyone because I'm going to have to go back and fix it anyhow. Are you saying that every PR uploaded for review should be absolutely perfect then? Oh yeah, I guess it does sound a bit like that, but no, that's not what I mean. There are always trade-offs in terms of how long to spend on a PR, and I don't think every PR has to be perfect. I guess I'm referring to more smaller things, like extracting a simple helper function, adding a missing test case, or fixing a not ideally phrased comment. Things that would take at most like 5 to 10% of the total time you've been working on the PR. Does that sound more reasonable? Yeah, I think I get that. Now, if you could give someone wanting to become a senior developer one piece of advice, what would it be? I think I'd advise people to really understand the why of their work. Ideally, I think I, and most people I've worked with, have been most motivated and done our best work when we can connect our work to the team's mission and can clearly see how the team's mission connects to the company's mission. If you really understand the why behind your work, I think it can really help you to make better choices in your work and potentially make suggestions that can really improve things. Understanding the why doesn't just mean understanding the trade-offs we're willing to make in the code, say memory versus speed, but it means understanding why we're okay with making those trade-offs and what we really want the final product to be. If you really understand the why, it means that you can potentially have discussions like, hey, I know you said you wanted me to do X, but what do you think about Y instead? We can implement Y faster with a lot less code, and I think it covers the main cases we care about. That's a good piece of advice. Going to a potentially scary side of things for a while, I'd like to touch briefly on AI. It's a complex and large subject, but I just have one question for you. Do you think AI is a threat to developer jobs? In a word, no. I think AI is going to create a lot of change in the industry, although at least right now, I don't personally think it's going to be as groundbreaking as some people do. At a high level, I think AI is going to be an amazing tool that's going to allow society to generate more code or solve more problems with code than we could have before. And looking around the world, I think there are a lot more problems to solve than developers available to solve them. So I think AI is going to help fill that gap, and it's going to allow us to solve more problems with technology and improve the technology that we are using. And I think we'll still need developers because while I think AI is going to be a powerful tool, it will still just be a tool and it won't be fully capable of doing everything by itself. So I think it's going to very much be a force multiplier, but not an engineer replacer. Interesting opinion. I'm not sure how many people would agree with it. One last question for you. Bit more of a fun question than that one. If you could learn one new thing, a programming language, toolkit, framework, a skill, what would it be and why? Right now, I'm pretty interested in learning Rust. There was an intern I worked with probably like 7 or 8 years ago that was a huge fan of Rust, really passionate about it. And I didn't look into it at the time, but I still remember how passionate and excited they were to talk about it. And now in the last couple of years, I'm seeing Rust start to pop up in a lot of places. So it's something I'd like to carve some time out to learn. I recently got a beginner book for it too, Programming in Rust. So hopefully it's something I can learn soon because it just seems interesting and like there's going to be a lot there. Neat. I might have to look into Rust myself. Well, Chris, thank you so much for taking time today to have this little chat with me. No problem, Chris, and thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed our discussion, and I hope the viewers did too. And with that, we'll send it back to Chris. That was something different. I haven't really interviewed myself before, and I'm not sure if I've even been an interviewer before, so an interesting adventure all around. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider hitting the like button below and subscribing to the channel. If there were any questions you would have liked me to ask myself, please leave a comment down below. I'll see if I can answer it, and maybe I can use it as a question in upcoming interviews. If you have any other comments, code you'd like me to review, or ideas you'd like me to talk about, please leave a comment below, or reach me at chris@seniorcodereviewbuddy.com. Thanks, and have a great day.